Okay, 3:30 Eastern. Trade Ideas Live Q&A here, closing down the Monday afternoon session. So we do a live Q&A here every day at 3:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday, with the exception of last Friday. No pre-done content as of now, so if anybody has any questions or thoughts or comments, something they want demonstrated with the software, it's an open forum, so start firing away. Don't be shy. As I always pound the table about, I like it when you guys are asking the questions to generate the content for us. Makes it much better to learn and grow when it's your questions being answered and asked versus me just randomly sharing things with you, I feel like. So, of course, as always, try to keep it moving, keep it interesting, cover maybe some AI trades, some of the things that I was looking at today, some general market charts and thoughts. Give a few moments here, let people pile in, click around a few different symbols today. See what was working around here and what wasn't working around here. Is a nice one off Barry's option scanner. Unfortunately, this is something I put on my do not trade list. Not so much. Well, yeah, almost touched $8. There's a nice little alert from that there. Not a ton of meat on it, but an easy trader, I do believe. We talked about this one going into the earlier live Q&A. I actually did about a half an hour stint. Barry had to take off for a little while before Chicago Sean got in there. So again, this is an open forum here. I'm kind of just buying some time till someone pops into that chat with a question for me. Just continue, click a few more symbols here from Barry's option scanner. A few good looking alerts off this today, all from the earlier side of things, but not too early. That one, not so much. Can't all be winners. No such thing as a magic scanner, but alert after alert, up is up. Top tick that one. That was an ugly trader. However, not really off from what that entry price was on that, or that alert price was on that. Interesting stuff coming through Barry's scanner today. A lot of these, I think, had earnings around them, near them, on them. So, of course, that's going to affect the options play that's going on there. So, all right, nobody piling with any questions yet. So let's see here. Something that I was watching, discussed this in the earlier session, and of course it got away from me now. Setting up the live stream, my prep work before for rearranging my layout. I discussed on this one that I like this setup, I like the chart, and I like the possibility of it running the next day or two. I'd set a price alert here at 1460. Of course, it went off. I couldn't just stop what I was doing to make a trade, and that was that. So watch it move along without me, and while it's not terribly far off my alert, I wanted at a specific price. I didn't get it at that price. Someone might say, well, why didn't you set a limit order to buy there if it was going to reach that price? And I don't like to trade like that. I want to be in control of when the trade actually happens. I want to, look at what it was doing price action wise leading into it. I don't want to get hit with the trade and a fill on something that just spikes all of a sudden and then moves back down. I like to have the control over these things. So anyways, something to probably keep watching. In fact, I'm going to throw it on my liked list here, and I'll watch it for the next couple of days and see what happens. Who knows? inside of 25 minutes today. I don't think I'll be taking it home with me. I'm looking at this as a significant pivot point here, just before 15 bucks. So, here to $15 is going to be a kind of a tough move through it. And maybe here too. So anyways, something from the AI to look at, carry it forward the next few days, see what happens. Kind of a tale of a few different tapes on the AI today. I'm just going to expand that a little bit here with Holly. In moderate, you got these losers, you got these winners. But what I really like to note is the fact that some of these winners were up much more than they're going to finish the day. And some of these losers were up actually quite a bit before giving it up. Once again, showing that man and machine is the better combination here than just machine alone or just man alone. She generates the ideas. She doesn't always manage them the best. So that's, kind of where that goes, and why I'm a firm believer in managing Holly with Holly. Bill, where do I find predefined scans? We got a few options here, Bill. You can always check out Barry's homepage. Let me get you a link to that, and you can find any Barry scans there. Let's see here. So you'll find Barry scans there. Load those from the cloud, of course. Make those your own. Rearrange those any ways you want. You can always send an email to here if there's a scan that you saw in a previous webinar we've done. So if there's something you've seen in a previous webinar and Andy was presenting, or Jamie was presenting, or Steve was presenting, you could say, hey, I saw webinar XYZ with so-and-so. Could I get a link to that scanner if that still exists? On occasion, some of the scanners that we go over in those, they don't pan out the way we thought they were going to, so they might not be saved in the cloud anymore. And then your last option is the channel bar. Mine's kind of hidden right here, but here's the channel bar. Each one of these channels has a theme to it. So, for example, the Buzz is looking at the stocks that are in the Buzz ETF, which gets its cue from a bunch of different social sentiments that it picks those stocks out. You have your strength alerts here. That's from our strength alerts algo. You have, stocks that, scanners that are looking specifically at EVs. So it has a symbols list attached. So it's only looking at those specific stocks. We have the pre-market channel if you want to do some pre-market work. Alpha Predators, kind of your faster moving stocks in the alpha direction. Momentum, same kind of idea, but I think there's a few more parameters that are around this, with segregating things by float and market cap and so on and so forth, breaking things down a little more by price too. And the momentum channel, same thing with the stock surging, but again, how it's broken down by price and float is going to be different than the Alpha Predator and momentum. Your short squeeze, things that can have a high short float that are breaking out of different ranges. Traders Vault, you're going to find a lot of stuff that we have created that we put in there, personal scans that we use. For example, Andy's High-Low Pro, Jamie's Turbo Family Up, Steve's A-List, things like that. Your swing ideas are going to be different things that are moving out of some different positions and ranges that look like they're trending up. All right. So on and so forth. You can go through each one of these channels and take a look. Like I said, everyone has a theme. And if you're, a little bit stuck on it, if you come to on the menu bar here, if you were to go to help, eventually this will work. And we go channel descriptions. There's a description right up about each one of the channels as well to help guide you along through. I know, there's a lot to go over, so we try to document as much as we can, and you're going to find a lot in there on that help menu there. So that's the directions I would send you in to start with, Bill. And then the other things that I would suggest to you is making these 3:30 sessions daily, showing up to the Traders with Barry at 9 a.m. in the morning, the noon support session that's similar to this. It's a very vast, powerful program. There's no one way to use it. There's no 100 ways to use it. There's no 1,000 ways to use this program. It's all very subjective, how you interpret data and what you're looking for. But I think by hanging out in a lot of these live sessions, You get traders of all different walks that use the software in many different ways and an idea how to use it from there. But, tons of stuff already done for you as far as scanning goes. And sorry, Anna D. Just saw that question. Somehow saw Bill's first. Can Trade Ideas link with other broker? Trade Ideas can directly link to IB and ETrade. That's it. Nobody else. There will be a TD Ameritrade link at some point. It may be sometime next year. It may be sometime in 2025. Why such a spread on that? TD Ameritrade doesn't have a very good API system. They don't care that they don't have a very good API system, and they have no interest in improving it. So if we want it to work, we have to figure out how to fix their API without any help from them whatsoever. It took us years for them to even talk to us. And then when they talked to us, then it took us time for them to open up the API to us. And then once they finally opened that up and we started to do work trying to link to them, we said, hey, your data's faulty. And they said, hey, we don't care, your problem, deal with it. So that's how that stuff works in the software world. And their software and developers, just don't talk to ours like we would like them to. They just simply don't care. That's all there is to it. They're a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation, and we're a not huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. That's how this works, unfortunately for us. We're very small fish in a very, very large pond, Trade Ideas. But so that's it. Now we can externally link to anybody with a copy-paste program. Some work better than the others. And again, it's us, creating a copy-paste program to try to universally work with all brokers. But essentially it works like this. So for example, this is my IB time and sales. That's right here. Okay. And if I click on a symbol in Trade Ideas, it'll send that over to the IB time and sales for me to watch. And you could do that with your charts from whether it's IB or Thinkorswim or I don't know, Active Trader Pro from Fidelity. Those are ones I can think of off the top of my head. And as long as it can accept the copy paste from those, we can work with them like that. But from there, you still have to share size and execute the trade. Let's see. Let me find you something here. Thinkorswim, copy. So here's a video that I did for linking to Thinkorswim, but this video applies to any external linking, period. So you have a look at that, and the only thing that will change is the rule. And when I say rule, what you look at here is, no, that's not what I want to do. Tools, options, tools, external linking. All right, so once the link is created here and edit link, you would come here and you find a drop-down rule if it was something that needs it. A lot of things don't really need it. In fact, I'll say the only things that need the rule are going to be NinjaTrader, Interactive Brokers Live or Paper, TrendSpider, TradingView, and I'm not sure if any of these other ones really need the rule anymore. I can tell you Thinkorswim does not need a rule anymore, 100% sure of it. I used Thinkorswim for years with external linking with Trade Ideas with no issues ever whatsoever. Years and years and years I used it. You do not need, it will not work, as a matter of fact, with the Thinkorswim rule. They changed things inside their software that stopped our software from working with theirs, and we had to go back in and fix it again. So that's the short and skinny as far as that goes. So let's see, let's dive back a little bit into the AI. Unless someone else has some other questions, please fire away. It's an open forum, so that's what I'm here for. I like to answer questions. I like it when you guys create the content. Like I said, I'll generate some content moving forward while I wait for questions to come in. And, I can always circle back on any of these questions here that have been asked, just a few that are in there. So, ask it in another way or ask other specific components of the question, and I'll get right back on it. But one of the things I want to note here is something like JOBS. Let's take a look at this here. So in moderate, it's a loser. Conservative, that's the exit reason is always going to be conservative, because moderate just means it's holding it to the end of the day no matter what. It exits the same way unless a stop happens, always. So it was a profit save here on this. And looking at this chart, it's a decent entry right there near the top of the day. Couldn't get through that resistance that had been created from earlier in the day. It faded for a while and then it started to pull up. Well, how are you managing that trade? All right. The algo on Holly didn't have a good trade management on it. Had a great entry. All right. If we zoom in even a little more, that's a pretty solid entry off of that. You're never in any pain off that entry. You kind of towed the entry line for a moment here before you get a nice release for 1, 2, 3, 15-minute bars. And then it starts to pull back up again. And so, one of the sins of trading, I think, one of the worst sins of trading is letting winners turn into a loser. So if you'd made a decent entry somewhere in this bar or even somewhere in this bar, you had 1, 2, 3 bars still to manage that profit that you were in before losing that profit up that way on that short. So it was in the money, all right? And how it was managed by a person, I think, would be a lot better as long as you weren't letting your emotions try to take over and say, oh, let me hold on for a little bit more, because that's when we really turn winners into losers. All right, so that's what I mean by, spread, the spread between the winner and loser on the two different conservative and moderate modes. We can find the same thing here with, oops, now we're moving on me, MXL. All right. So this one's a long trade, and Holly makes that entry right here on this, and you're in the money nice right off that 15-minute bar. You come back down, you touch the entry, you remain in the money, you remain in the money, you remain in the money, remain in the money. All these 15-minute bars, all right? And once, especially with the trader's eye, you start seeing these wicks like this, and you've seen it wicked out here, and you see these wicks, and you see these wicks. It's giving you cues. It's giving you signals. This isn't something you want to be holding on to. On a daily chart, you can see how extended you are off, and a very fast moving 8 EMA there. There's a lot of signs here. So a nice entry that's off that puts you in a long time position to try to get out with money right there before giving it up for the rest of the day. So again, the management of the trade, completely up to the individual. Another solid signal that had plenty of time for meat on that profit there. Let's see. Now let's look at a loser that just never turned into a winner whatsoever. CHPT. And I noted this one in the earlier session here, and I said this was a shame. This alert was a shame because, all right, you had a massive gap up and a really early entry at 940, which is just too early for me to enter any stock unless I really, really know the stock. I've been in and out of trading it, and stocks have personalities. Massive gap up. All right, you've created this range that's right here already. All right, and Holly gets in it early and just gives it up. But the worst part about her giving it up right here is she comes down and hits the stop loss that's here, which was the low of the day. And it reversed and never came anywhere near that again, and even got back up through her earlier entry and stayed above that earlier entry for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 15-minute candles above that entry later in the day. So this was one that a re-entry on it actually looked pretty solid. All right, and a re-entry of 2708, and it's still above that re-entry of 2708. So this was a second mouse gets the cheese kind of thing. As a trader, some few years experience here, seeing that massive gap up like that, chasing it right there just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Algorithm saw what it saw, but that doesn't mean that you had to jump right on it. And something that I steal from Barry that I listened to from years from him is use the AI like a watch list. First off, what's your trading plan and what's your risk parameters and what are the stock prices that you like to trade, so on and so forth. I'm not really trading much over $30. I also don't like to trade things really under $8, to be honest. That's kind of my bread and butter range. That's where I do the best. I don't go outside of that comfort zone. It's part of my rules and my trading. That's the end of it. All right. So when I'm looking at any scan, first off, any scans that I'm using are tailored around that. Barry's option scan is, more or less tailored around that. Yes, he has stocks that are under that $8 range. I left it as it was. But the max on it's 25, which is good for me. All right. Mostly Barry's trading range is near the trading range that I'm at. So I like Barry's watch list. He's got a good eye. I think I like to look at some of the stuff that he's looking at. A lot of what he's looking at also I'm usually looking at too, which is kind of interesting. I always find. I think we do similar things in our nightly homework. Just also go figure, I was in a trader's room with Barry for 4 years before coming to work with him. So probably doesn't help, or probably doesn't hurt that I stole a lot of what I do from Barry and just modified it to what fits my own style a little bit. This list here that says automation, it's just something that I'm testing. It's not an automation list, but everything that's on here is going to be within my criteria of trading. It's a curated list of specific stocks that I've told to do it. And when I'm looking at Holly, you better believe that the things that I'm looking closest at are the things that are within that price range for me. So, these are things you can do to help yourself. Again, I just beat a dead horse on this one. It just, like I said, had that range, came right down, touched the bottom of the day, and ended up being a pretty decent alert, actually. So maybe it's something you put on a watch list for yourself for tomorrow. Spinning top doji here. You cleared some major resistance. That's right there. It wasn't a great line that I drew, but it doesn't matter also because anybody that knows me knows that I think that pivot lines are an approximation. They're not exact. I say have fun with them. I have fun with them. I enjoy drawing pivot lines. I enjoy drawing a line across a chart on an intraday and seeing how it plays out on a daily chart. And I mean, look at that. The bottom of this line here, the bottom of this range came down and filled this gap of these days where it was big resistance right there. And while it didn't nail there, as I said, they're not exact. They're approximations. All right. I don't think it's any happy accident that that's the line in the sand that this came down and touched. And that's saying, and I would have said the same thing if there was a wick just through this line here and here. It's not an exact science. There's humans behind all these trades and even humans behind the algos that are programmed for different things. We're all looking at the same stuff. We're all looking at the same data points. There's no magic data point. It doesn't exist. So anyways, that's the one bad loser from Holly today. And like I said, it was a bad loser, I think, just because it was a chase early. If Holly had waited a little bit, if she had a different, instead of breaking out long, maybe a pullback long had found that. I don't think that was a strategy, but here, strong stock pulling back. If strong stock pulling back had found that if whatever the metrics were of that specific scan had been met, maybe if she had found it in here, that was a whole different story on this alert today. An alert around that 27 range would have been much nicer than an alert around that 27.64 range. So again, trade management. So that covers kind of more the ugly side of Holly, where I started today. Let's look at the pretty side of Holly that turned ugly. So lift. Great signal right here. All right. Nice chart. 949. So now you know that a lot of the tree has been shaken. A lot of the whips and saws of the market have been shaken out in that first almost 20 minutes there. Get a nice alert, nice entry right there on the mid candle of that 15. That's your second 15-minute bar. And you never look back on that all the way through here. I'd be remiss if I don't note that this pivot line coordinates with here and here and here and here and here and here and here, all through those areas, all right? And all through here. That's a really significant line, all right? And so going back and looking at that, knowing that we were approaching that line, you couldn't get through it, and you couldn't get through it, you better believe taking profit was a good idea there, all right? And everybody says, well, I want to hold on for the big one. Well, holding on for the big one's great. The problem is there are much more losers than big winners. And that's the way it works in trading. But you can satisfy both greed, holding on, and fear, selling, by selling partial lots. So let's say you had a 200 lot share on this, and you couldn't get through this here, and you decided, you know what, I'm going to sell 50 here. And then all of a sudden you see this happen, and you get a return here. You say, you know what, I'm going to sell another 75 there. All right, now you kind of toe this line. You see, oh, maybe I'm getting through it. Couldn't get through it. Oh, I'm getting through it. I couldn't get through it. You might, at that point, want to say to yourself, as managing your trade, that you now couldn't get it through it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The 6th time is not a charm. All right. And even if it is, sticking around for that, to me, is a lack of discipline. and that would be a sure sign to be closing that trade there. So again, uh, having great scanners is great. Having great trade management is not substituted by anything. So that's the good, bad, and ugly of Holly. And couldn't get through that resistance, and then it's a slow bleed for another hour basically after that. And while yes, we're up from that entry, that's a lot of money to leave on the table for a long time. You had that you had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven 15-minute candles to manage that trade a lot better than letting it come down to here. So again, your entries were there. It was actually a really great day from Holly, especially when you look at this max profit column, right? It was a really great day from Holly for someone who can manage trades well. So I'm going to take a pause, take a sip of water. You're all awfully silent today on this Monday here. You'd think you were all the ones that ran a marathon yesterday, not me. So fire away some questions, people. Come on, get engaged. So, all right, I think that's going to wrap it up for my Holly kind of coverage. I mean, you can go through the rest and kind of piggyback of some of what I've shown and what I talked about with pivot lines. If you haven't found some moving averages you're comfortable with and you're trying to put one or two moving averages on your charts, I would highly recommend not going with more than one or two. Why? Because too much data, you get analysis paralysis essentially. Work and see how it works for your mind, for your eye. Something isn't kind of shaping up for you, trade it for another one. Take that off, put another one on. There's a lot of experiment and trials, and I used to like a 10 SMA. I swapped it out for an 8 EMA. It kind of just works better for me. It's not a thing is magic about an 8 EMA. I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing magic about a 13 EMA. There's nothing magic about a 53 EMA. There's nothing magic about a 200 SMA. Everybody's looking at the same data points. Sure, on a 200 SMA, a lot of people are watching it. Most of the time, at first shot, a stock is going to get rejected at the 200 SMA. That's fine. There's still nothing magic about it. It was just human emotions. It was thousands and thousands of humans watching the same data point together. There's no magic about it. So it's my kind of suggestion to you if you're trying to figure things out with charting and trading and things like that. Start putting stuff on charts, but don't get ridiculous with it. The cleaner the chart, the better the chart, I find for myself. And I was someone that had 10 SMA, 20 SMA, 50 SMA, 100 SMA, 200 SMA, all on the daily chart, and it did absolutely nothing for my trading whatsoever. So that's kind of short and skinny there. Let's see, we got under 2 minutes before the market closes. Let's take a look around the horn. So let's start with the RSP. This is your S&P 500. It's equally weighted, so you're not tech heavy like the traditional SPY is. And we're kind of just sitting around hanging here from Friday to today. All right, so spinning top, that's right there. We came down, we touched off that right there. These lines kind of coincide, all right? And we take a pause for the calls, if you will. We had a nice breakout and a test of this pivot line right here, all right? So if we look at it, and we ran right up into it, we gapped up over it. The next day we came down, tested it, and again, there's a little whoopsie tail that poked through it. We closed well above it. We made a nice move up. We get a couple of day pullback. We made a nice move up. We take a pause, a gap up, a pause, and we'll see where it leads us from there. But the market looks strong overall. No weakness whatsoever. And pound the table once again. A lot of people here, got real bearish, talking about real shorts, and here comes the big correction, and the bear market's upon us, and blah, 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 blah. And that's awesome. It's fun to predict things. Who doesn't like predicting stuff? But predicting doesn't make you any money whatsoever. There's no money in predictions. Unless you're Miss Cleo and you got a 1-800-1900 number and you're giving people their fortunes for $20 an hour. That's the only time predictions are going to make you any kind of money. Just a strong market. That's all there is to it. So I like the RSP for that. The SPYs, different tale of a tell. Like I said, it's tech heavy. Looks a little more extended than the RSP now. So when it falls, it kind of falls quicker. When it moves up, it can also move quicker. I did note last week in my last couple of sessions doing this how the SMH and the SOXX, the semiconductors, were really steaming away again. So that's your tech heavy kind of stuff really taking effect. Oops, there we go. You start to get a little extended off this right here. Wouldn't be a terrible thing if we move back to 460 and then maybe consolidated before taking that next march up. That would be what I would love. Do we get it? I don't know. Seems likely. We'll see what happens. For all I know, we consolidate right here for days before making a move up. For all I know, we crash all the way down to here too. So, all these things are possible. But for now, very, very strong market overall. Let's take a look at the Qs. And again, same kind of theme here, very close to what the SPY looks like. There's your previous all-time highs and, came down here before making us move up, consolidate a few days, and now it's just been up, 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 and away. Is this a possible flag forming now? Could be on the Qs. That's very possible. But again, a lot of strength here. I'm going to zoom back out. A lot of strength there. That doesn't mean go chasing it. Have a plan. It's up. I'll buy it. No. Have a plan. Look at the Dows. The diamonds that represent your Dow 30. And all these charts kind of mimic each other more than less. So, there's no geniuses here. Just people buying, and a lot of them. Big funds and all those things like that. So, again, there's not a lot to comment on any of this. I don't think there'll be a lot to comment on the market until we either get some sort of pullback or we get some days of consolidation and we start to see some moving averages meet with things and then let them do their work on the charts. Take a look at the IWMs. That's your small caps, your Russell 2000. All right. And train has really left the station after breaking out from this all-time highs. And, something to note when people are like, oh, the market's so extended and it's due for a crash and so on and so forth. Look how long the IWM was in this range for. All right. The IWM makes an all-time high here and then makes its all-time high here and tops out here. And it couldn't break that top all through here. And so you stayed range bound from February. I mean, you could even say stayed range bound from January of this year. The whole year almost spent range bound till just before we turned the calendar to November. You're range bound that whole way through. You're talking 11 months of range. Okay. You don't need a crash for that, train is leaving the station here, obviously some, these big gap up days that really blasted us through that. Would love to see it come back, test this line, maybe a little whoopsie through that line to really shake some trees before making a march back up again. But again, people, searching for these crashes in bear markets, you don't need a technical bear market. You don't need the 20% pullback to really see people get smacked around in a market. A range like that in the IWM will do plenty of that. I know it did to me. I had to adjust a lot of things that I do in trading. Hold times a little less, share size a little small, especially, sometime in April really started to get to me. Things that I had been doing for, from back here in 2020 through this area right here of this year, they just weren't working the same for me. So I made some adjustments accordingly. So that's, your four major indexes plus the RSP, which I think is a better market indicator. Take a look here at the sectors. I guess there's some news about weed again today. Again, I don't really know what to make of any of this stuff when it comes to pot stocks. I just don't get it. The federal government's going to arrest you. The state government wants you to sell as much as they can to tax you. The banks won't take your money from the dispensaries. I think that's still a thing. As last I knew. People can grow their own kind of sometimes, depending on what the rules are and all that stuff like that. Sorry, just getting a note about something here, trying to make sure I keep up with some other things here so I'm not behind later in the evening after I take my dinner break. So that's it with the pot stocks. I don't know what to make any of those. I don't trade them. I don't even really look at them anymore. I mean, I know Kron came through, I think, on one of these scanners here, but I just don't trade those. There's nothing about holding them long term to me. It doesn't have any reason or sense for me. Uranium, that interests me. It's whippy, so it's a little bit tough to try to trade this kind of stuff when you're getting moves like that. But a smaller share size because it's making bigger moves. Our recommendation: any uranium stocks. Well, not recommendation, but that would be, my thoughts on any moves in uranium stocks that you're looking at. I don't make recommendations. Again, this is kind of your alternative harvest here with not just pot stocks. Now you're looking at, I think, psilocybin, mushroom kind of stuff like those. Again, I don't really know what the trade is on any of that stuff. It's more speculative to me. I'll move away from that. LIT, we're getting lit. It's your lithium ion plays. Again, just the train really pulling away from the station on this one here. And the two plays that I've liked in this, hindsight being 2020, sure, holding them long term would have been great. But, coming in and out 2, 3, 4 day holds on this here, LAC, just so much strength in that chart. Again, don't go chasing it. I mean, the move's made already. Now you wait for things to catch up. Another one here, very similar chart to that one. This one I've liked a little bit more. I've treated it a little nicer than that other one. It seems to be a little less extended on a long-term basis. Super strong sector. Does not hurt to have a super strong sector in things that you're looking at. Steel, its position and range in the year is kind of blah. Or sorry, no, this is the SLX, not SXL. My apologies. So another lithium play, actually. Not as strong here. So obviously it's looking at some weaker strongs as far as lithium plays go. Your KWEB, still not convinced about anything to do with China. Just ugly. Everybody thought it was breaking out here, and it was rejected hard, moving back down. We could always go with, glass is half full. We can call that the bottom, higher low, and we build off of that. Is that possible? Absolutely. I'm not placing any long-term trades on that, though, for now, for the KWEB. So, hey, Chris, I talked to you the other day and want to do your 2-week trial service. So, yeah, Elijah, we won't have that until January of this coming year for the test drive. It's $11.11, full access to the software. The next one will be sometime in January. So if you want to sign up for that, let me find you a link to do that, or I'll find you a link to get notified when we put an official date out. So anybody that's kind of kicking the tires around here, you can use that link there that I just posted and find you'll get an email alert when we do our next coming up to our next test drive. So just the only thing I always note about the test drives, the only thing you cannot do in the test drive is live automation. The reason for it is, we have so many people signing up for a trial run of software, and many of which have never in their entire lives bought a stock. It's not a good idea to let them just attach their brokerage account and go live. It's, in fact, a terrible idea. Mention the SMH, just still plugging away. Just holy cow. And when I say holy cow, you want some perspective on this one, pull up a weekly chart on the SMH. I mean, just wow. I mean, just up, up and away. Just my God. You want to talk about anything that quote unquote is due for a crash? This would be it. I mean, even in these little pullbacks on these weeks here is not even a pullback. Um, you know, those pullbacks are nothing. Every one of those pullbacks is met with a higher low. Every one of them, all the way through here. I mean, even if we get a nice pullback here, I mean, you'd have to come all the way down here to get any real significant pullback. And I just don't see that happening before years. And barring something crazy going on in the world, you know, things that are not predictable, hence Black Swan. Anyways, SMH just continues to chug along and really lead this market like it has for so long. XOP, your energy, exploration. Um, I don't know what else to comment about this other than energy's been strong for, a multitude of reasons. Zooming out here, we've returned to levels that haven't been seen since, well, pre-pandemic. Um, everybody's feeling energy prices in one way or the other. We're obviously well off any sort of high for these things, but it continues to look strong overall to me. Nice move, test it, nice move. Now we consolidate. I think a move back below 100 is very bearish. I think anything staying above 100, even testing 100, and then moving up again, real bullish. We start to test these levels going way back 2019 and back into 2018 here. There's thoughts there. All right, Elijah, that sounds good. You sign up for monthly. You don't like it at the towards the end of the month, you just cancel it, and that's the end of it. The one recommendation I always try to make to anybody that's considering signing up is don't rush. The stock market's always going to be here. Our software is always going to be here. Take a week. Come to these live Q&As for a week. Come to Barry's trading room for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is that kind of fits your research idea, your research plan to hit the ground running better. I often like to share my entry to trade ideas. I discovered trade ideas in April of that year, the first year that I got involved with trade ideas as a subscriber. It wasn't until July of that year, after attending the 5 o'clock webinars, Barry's room, doing a lot of research on just stock trading in general, understanding what candlesticks were and charts and patterns. So I went from April of that year of discovering trade ideas till July before I finally subscribed. It took my time. I'm glad I did. The one mistake I made was I went live trading in August of that year, which was really stupid. I should have waited at least 6 months. I probably should have waited 9 months before going live trading. I know everybody, 90, I'll say probably 90% of the people that are looking to trade were in the same position I was. I need to make money now, and I got to figure out a way to make more income. And I learned the hard way that's the wrong way to go about it. I understand. I sympathize. I'm not a finance guy by background. I'm a career service industry person by background. And there was no rushing any of this. The bottom line is there's no rushing it. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic pill. There's no magic scam. There's no magic education. It's time in the seat looking at things. So, just my 2 cents there. I want everybody to succeed. And success starts with education. So anyways, moving back into some of these here, silver starts to make me a little bit of a believer finally. I've ragged on precious metals. I'll continue to rag on them overall, especially gold. And that's not to say that I won't trade a gold stock. I just don't see it right now. I don't get it. Silver at least has some real world uses that you don't just wear. They go into electronic components. Right there, it looks as a double top as it starts to move back down here. It's trying to fight its way back up. So now do we say the bottom was in here? There's a higher low. There's a higher low. And do we continue to build off these 1, 2, 3 higher lows? I don't know, but it's starting to convince me enough that I actually put a few silver stocks on my watch list. So here's AG, all right, that I'm watching. Made an alert today. It was a nice alert. Continue to work its way up, all right, but I can't ignore what the daily chart says. And the daily chart says there's going to be resistance there. There's going to be resistance in here. And it's no happy accident that we ran right into that and could not get above that. I don't like to draw 1,000 pivot lines. One pivot line can represent a few levels. So this pivot line here is going to represent this kind of level and this kind of level in here. I do think if we can get above this level tomorrow, all right, we start to work our way in and through that. That's, where my mind is starting to go and where my trading formulas and plans start to look at AG as far as a play goes. All right. But, to make my list, to make the cut for me, I just don't throw it on there lightly. So, and you can even see I've done a lot of work on this chart. Going back here, this pivot line it's a big deal. All right. Couldn't get through it, blasted through it. Unfortunately, the blast through this is that Wall Street's bets nonsense back here. And I say nonsense as in, I don't care if they make money. I don't care what they do. But the bottom line is people weren't trading this for any real reason other than a bunch of people talking about it. There was nothing about the chart that was like, whoa, look at that chart. There's no news. There's no anything significant other than Wall Street's bet, grasped the market and silver squeeze and all that crazy stuff like that. All right. And obviously we know how that ends up turning out because, made this move and then came down here and it banged on that support, banged on that support, banged on that support. And it was grinding its way back here before a bleed and a bleed and a bleed. So is it reversed? Has it found a bottom? I don't know. But I am starting to see a trend change on this. So that's what I'm kind of looking at as far as the silver stocks go. Let's see, where else are we? Jump around a little bit here. There's your China large caps. I already ragged on China a little bit. Let me rag on them some more. And again, silver changed my mind. In January, I changed my mind about energy. In November of this year, I'm beginning to change my mind about silver. All right. I was never convinced all through here, any one of those times that China was making a recovery. And I am still not convinced. Now, in hindsight, we might be able to say the bottom was in here. We made a nice move up and we pulled back. And now this maybe becomes some new support as we continue to work our way up. And you can see some things with these lines that I just drawn. All right. So we've got this resistance established here. We put a bottom in here. Here's our next range to work out of, possibly. I don't know if it is or isn't. I'm not convinced of it right now. You might be convinced of it. I don't know. I don't trade for you, and I don't think in your mind, and vice versa. But that's what I'm seeing. I just don't see anything long-term that says buy China stocks long-term right now. And that chart tells me don't buy China stocks long-term right now, according to how I like to trade. That's just a move and a move and a move and just grind. And then the elevator, the rug gets pulled out from you and rejected and rejected and rejected. And that's what I see there. And moving right back down, as far as I'm concerned, back down to here again. That's what I really think is going to happen. And so my bet that that's going to happen is I'm not buying any China stocks. That's my bet. I can also, zoom back in just a touch here. Here's your top, lower highs all the way through here, non-stop. Every one of those, a lower high. So, I know triple tops are rare or whatever, but I wouldn't even call this a triple top because it's just bled so much for so long. Anyways, that's my thoughts on China. I'm sure it's a wonderful country, but their stock market is struggling. What else is? Let's take a look at. I don't want to look at the junior gold miners. XLE. Now we kind of covered energy a little bit. TAN. Let's look at TAN. Our solars. We talked about them breaking out. They broke out. So, like I said, anybody that's been in these for the last couple of months with me now, I discussed how the solars had been in the range for a very long time after topping out up here. They came down, made some flushes. All right, bottomed, got rejected. We got rejected. Couldn't even get back up there, and then all of a sudden we got up there and maybe got up there a little too quick, and then got that running start and blasted through. Now I like what the solars are doing to set up. All right, we zoom back in a little bit here. All right, we blasted through. We pulled back. We didn't quite test that line, but we made a run at it. We're kind of chopping around here, and I think that we're going to start to move back up here. We're going to challenge this again. Those coordinate without a question. Are they exact? Nope. But again, pivot lines are not exact. No such thing as exact pivot lines all the way throughout the history. There's going to be pivot lines that match some points perfectly and going to be close to other points on that same pivot line. But all the same, I think that was rejected because of that there. And I do believe that we start to grind up through that again. And we look at this and we look at all-time highs. Do we get there? That I don't know. Do we become range bound maybe up in this area? Oops, that was a terrible line. Up in, do we get range bound up here now? Maybe a little bit. I think that's possible as we grind up towards here. Maybe we get a tight range that's in here now out of this range that was down here. And maybe we get a tight range up in here. All right. That's what I'm kind of looking at for solar. So if you got solar pace, that's where things are looking as far as that goes as the sun shines. Cloud computing, I always find this one kind of interesting. Overall, a strong chart, a little more choppy than your SMH for your semiconductors, but cloud computing continues to be a big deal, continues to be strong. And that's what that chart shows me here. Really like this right in here. That move and this move. There's your cup. There's your handle. All right. So cloud computing continues to be strong if you can find the right kind of cloud stocks, ones that, they have liquidity, they have volume, they have interest in them. Those might be some ones worth taking a second look at, considering positions in those. Jets gone positive again for the year now. This is one of those ones. Whoops, that's not Jets. I don't know how that happened. There we go. This is one of those ones. It's a tough trader. The Jets, the Airlines, tied to a lot of headlines and what countries are allowing who to do what and where. And I like to stay away from that topic as much as possible. I don't like to judge anything or decide anything. I just move accordingly what I can. And, there's no happy accident once again that we gapped to here and we're stuck right there on that. We'll see if we can pull through it in the next few days and consolidate. I think there's more people allowed to travel into the country again or something like that, into our country again. Again, I try really to stay away from that stuff, and that's why I kind of stay away from the airlines. They're just tied too much to news, and I just don't want to read the news. Healthcare continues to be strong. I have a very thinly traded ETF, but all the same, I'm representing some healthcare here. Let's see, we're inside 7 minutes now. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to wind down for 4:30 stop here. So if you got platform questions, throw them at me here. I'm just really filling airtime here, and I'm sure people are enjoying and getting an education, or wouldn't be. I wouldn't have the dozen viewers or so that are in here. But, there's a lot that I can go over in the platform, in the software of trade ideas. But anyways, moving off that part of healthcare, let's look at Biotech, your IBB. We thought we were breaking out here on the IBB. I actually thought we were breaking out here. There's some other people that are in this 3:30 session regularly. I haven't heard from them yet today. And, discussing with them, they had mentioned, as I do this on most of these 3:30 sessions here when there's no questions coming in, going over these indexes, these sectors, excuse me. And I thought, we'd found the bottom on IBB, and we were ready to get over that 50, and I was wrong. So, I don't get paid for my opinion. If I made bets on my opinion all the time, I'd be probably a very poor man instead of, a person that's able to pay their bills. Now, did we come back and we kind of tested that bottom and we're going to make a move up from here? I don't know. I don't know what this gap was. Guessing some drug maker flopped hard. It's hard to say, vaccines and medicines and all those things like that. But for now, it looks like the IBB is just not going to get out of its way, and that's the bottom line. Question on Brokerage Plus is included in the standard package. Yes, Brokerage Plus is included in the standard package. You can't auto trade. You can manually trade though with it. You can have the simulator and all that stuff like that. So I'm going to bring over a Brokerage Plus module. This is it right here. What how I have it set up with the columns that I look at and things like that. I know people, I kind of hesitate to show this. Yes, there's an alpaca, there's a TD Ameritrade. They don't work. They don't work for me. They don't work for you. They don't work for anybody. You won't find them. I'm on a developmental version of the software, but they don't work. Your three options are ETrade, Interactive Brokers, and our simulator. So I highly recommend our simulator. You connect to the simulator. Here you'll see it says not connected. It's because that's just connecting to the simulator itself. Now you need to connect to the account. So there's the account. And if this was connected to IB, you'd see my IB account here. If this was connected to ETrade, you wouldn't see anything because I don't have an ETrade account. But if you have ETrade, you'd see your ETrade account and you can execute buy and sell. Your symbols will populate. Let me do this like this. Bring that up here. So your symbols will populate here and you can pick your shares, either like this, or you could start, typing out how many shares you want, your market price. When the market's open, you'll have your bid and your ask spread here if you want to go in bid or you want to go in at the ask or somewhere in between, or you can even, once again, start typing the price. Hit your buy, your sell. All right, good to know, Jude. Yeah, and like I was mentioned before, no rush in this. It's better to do your homework for this stuff. Trading is freaking hard. All right, now add trading's hard to it, and then you got to learn the software on top of trading. And learning trading means coming up with a trading plan, a risk plan. Take your time. Market's always going to be here. The people who are not going to be here are the ones that rush in, make some bad trades, blow up their account, and never make it back to trade again. That's the way this works. The market doesn't have any feelings towards you whatsoever. Anyway, so I like Brokerage Plus. It's the only reason that I am with IB is Brokerage Plus. I'm considering switching to ETrade. I'm just kind of tired of bouncing around brokers. When we were testing Ameritrade, I was with Ameritrade. And, the link there, cleaning up their API is a disaster. TD's API is just a total wreck, and they don't care. And it's not easy to clean up someone else's mess within software. Anyways, I like Brokerage Plus. I like managing my positions from here. I like going in at limits. I like using the buy and sell buttons here. I like all this stuff, flat and half and things like that. And so that's why I have a Interactive Brokers account. So that's that. That's part of how I like to do things as a personal note. So let's see, we're at 428 and change. I'm going to kind of make a last call here. If anybody has any last minute questions here, please pop them in. Otherwise, I'm going to start to wind this down for the day. Take a look. Is there anything else I want to note here from? Not really. Look at the VXX. VXX is just a volatility hedge. It has been interesting as we've been making all-time highs or scraping around all-time highs. We get a couple of days of volatility, but the bottom line is, there's not much there. And I think the other thing to think is, for some reason, this bull market is just utterly hated in general, and everybody's ready for it to crash. Nobody wants to miss out on it. But it's funny, so many people talk about waiting for a pullback, and as soon as it pulls back, they don't buy the pullback, and they end up chasing it into all-time highs again. It is what it is, human nature and all those things like that. But while they're chasing that bull market up to its all-time highs again, a lot of people are hedging that with VXX bets. VXX is something that you don't do technical analysis on. The chart doesn't work that way. It's not how volatility works. Anyways, long story short is that, as we continue to make all-time highs, people are going to bet on a crash again. And then they'll probably say, oh, well, I'll buy in the pullback. And then they will probably, again, not buy the pullback. And then they'll probably, again, chase into all-time highs because, again, human nature. We are what we are. We don't change it. So, all right, that's kind of that, my friends here. I'll wrap it up for the day. Again, you have questions after hours. There's someone usually around piling through emails. So info at trade-ideas.com. You can get us there in the after hours, before market, so on and so forth. And with that said, I will bid you all a happy Monday and a fair farewell. Till tomorrow, I will see you all here, same time, same channel, 3:30 Eastern, and we'll catch you then. Take care now. Bye-bye.